More of us are expected to face our final years as so-called elder orphans, people without family nearby to help. Older adults who live alone are especially vulnerable to depression, and that, in turn, can lead to a host of other problems. KUOW's Ruby DeLuna takes us now to a Seattle senior center that helps older adults deal with the challenges of living alone.
At the Greenwood Senior Center, about 24 older adults are gathered around a large table. They're settling into their seats. There's homemade bread being passed around and some handouts for today's discussion.
Anybody need a handout? It's just something to spark us in our conversation. Everybody got it? Okay. Very good.
Once the room quiets down, Karen Mack, a geriatric social worker, starts the conversation.
So, loneliness and social isolation is prevalent in older adults that are living alone.
The people in this group are mostly over age 65. Some are widowed, some are divorced, some have never married. One thing they have in common is they live by themselves. Twice a month, the Living Alone group, as it's called, meets to talk about the realities of that. Julia Robinson knows this firsthand.
Anytime you have any kind of medical procedure, the issue of living alone crops up, and you're supposed to have somebody stay with you the first night and all that nonsense. And what I have found is that the telephone works real well if you keep it charged.
It's not just the practical challenges of living solo that the group wanted to talk about. There are emotional ones too, like how to deal with loneliness. Beatrice Dolph says she has phone numbers of friends in her book that she hadn't called in ages.
And I think the tendency is not to call somebody unless we have something to talk about.
But she learned it pays to take the first step and reach out to them.
And I found that it also takes loneliness away. I do this frequently on the weekend, because the weekend is the time I feel, would be fun to do something, And I just call these people and say, I haven't talked about, even if I haven't seen them for years.
Soon the group starts sharing ideas on how to spend their free time or ways to meet people. Karen Mack, the social worker, started the Living Alone group 15 years ago. It was a small group initially, but over the years, more people started coming.
People have lost that sense of community.
Communities and activities give people reason to get out of the house. Mack says they anchor our lives. But for many older adults, there aren't many anchors left.
The family might be gone, or they're too busy. They're not in the workplace anymore. They haven't developed maybe some kind of a passion, either for community service or quilting or anything that you can think of that will be an anchor. And I think it definitely makes them more vulnerable.
Max says older adults living in isolation are vulnerable to elder abuse. It puts them at risk for cognitive decline or depression. Public health officials are taking note. In Washington, elderly men have the highest suicide rate. And according to the CDC, depression is a common problem among older adults, but it's not a normal part of aging.
Anybody else want to please speak up? Yes, James.
Back at the Living Alone meeting, the group talks about pets that keep them company. But if that's not an option, James Hyde offered this suggestion: houseplants.
And they are like my buddies, and I don't know. I'm a little strange, but I don't know anything much about plants other than I really love them, but I don't know how to take care of them.
Hyde says his ex-wife and a good friend coach him on how to care for the plants.
And they are just doing super well. And I just get it, when I see a new sprout, I'm like, wow, I really am amazed.
Someone then mentioned she has a bunch of baby jade plants that are rooting. Would anybody like some? Immediately, hands went up. After the meeting, a few people lingered to chat.
I'm brand new. This is my second time coming here.
That's Rose Hublitz. She's 64 years old. Hublitz says her friend suggested that she come to the senior center.
I tend to self-isolate, and I'm looking for a place to meet and chat with people.
Hublitz says there are times when she wants to be alone, but other times being alone hits her harder.
It's evenings for me where you want to share the day's events with someone, and there's no one there. And I am going to get a plant.
Hublet says coming to the meetings has helped her. She felt welcomed. It says something about us, that we're social beings. We need to connect. I'm Ruby DeLuna, KUOW News.